All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Fight Court. I'm Dean Thomas along with Ryan Quinn. With the man of the hour, we got him. He was gracious enough to give us a few moments of his time on Fight Week. Make some noise for my man, Beneil Dariush. Beneil, man, this Fight Week, how good does it feel to be home? Like, it's a home game for you.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I drove here. Took me 45 minutes because a little bit of a traffic. It would have been less if there wasn't traffic. And I got in, did my stuff, and got straight to work. It was great. Check-in was quick. This is gonna be as smooth as it gets for Fight Week.
So you got Renato Moicano. Man, you were right there with the best of them looking for a title shot. I mean, you actually might have taken a few fights that you didn't even need to take. And now you got Renato Moicano. What does this fight mean for you?
It's obviously he's a great opponent. He's on a great win streak, but the fight just solidifies whether I belong in the top 10 or not, So I'm looking forward to fighting, and I'm, looking forward to competing. I love to compete.
That's awesome, man. Dude, I always laugh whenever we have fighters on here that are on Fight Week. Like, I could tell you're just chilling in your hotel room right now. Me, if that was me, I'd be like, oh, I'm cutting weight. I don't need this shit. This dude, friends with Dean Thomas, probably begging Dean to come on here, to get him on here. But overall, though, like you said, drove in. I don't think a lot of fans realize, like, how often do you drive to Fight Week? It's a very rare occurrence. So overall, though, Fight Week is going very well overall.
Yeah. I've drove into Fight Week only once before with the UFC in California. The other times, like, I've done Vegas, but that's just as tough as a flight because it's a 4-hour drive, 4.5-hour drive. It's not the same thing. I fought at the Forum in, I think, 2016. So might have been, I don't remember exactly the date, but I fought James Vick. So it's been a long time since I've got to drive in, and it was so short. But the other thing is, you mentioned, coming on Fight Week. If it wasn't for Dean Thomas, bro, I would have said no. I'll be honest. He's one of the originals, so I couldn't say no.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So like we talked about, you had 2 tough losses. It's funny in fights like that. It's not like you lost, but it's not like you were beaten. Like, it's not like something was done. Like they didn't outdo you somewhere. Like, like things happen in a fight, in a world-class fight. Mistakes happen. The fight's over. Was there any adjustments you've made since the last fight? Not necessarily for this camp, but like maybe anything, like whether it's technique, nutrition, anything that you could think of that caused you like, what can I reevaluate going forward?
I can always be better with nutrition. I'm not great with nutrition. So I've definitely tried to do a better job being a little bit older now with nutrition this camp. But as far as the camp goes, it's just get back to hard work, focus, and just get better. This whole last year the focus was getting better, improving, because maybe you have enough skills to be a champion, but every day these guys get better. Every day the level increases. So if you're not continuing to increase your level, you're going to get left behind. So my goal for this last year was to just get better. So then this year when I come out, people are like, oh, there's Dariush is back, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds like you got this this youthful, like, invigorated spirit. You're like, I'm getting older, but it sounds that's the type of spirit you want to have, right?
Yeah. I mean, fighting's a up and down sport, but for whatever reason, like long layoffs always seem to be more beneficial for me for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't enjoy them, but they seem to really renew my desire to fight and my health, and just in general, they seem to be beneficial for me. But it's just like, I don't want to take a year off every time I fight, so I don't normally do it.
Yeah, whenever I had longer layoffs, I felt that gave me time. Like when I was younger, I'm sure you were there too. You try to fight like 3-4 times a year, but that's basically like a week 2 off from the last fight, and you're almost like getting right into training camp with things like that. But I felt when I had the longer layoffs, that gave me like play around sessions. I need to work on this. Let me go play around. Like my striking was always lagging. So let me go just box for a little while and just play with things and see what works into my game. And then I could like they say it more in boxing than in MMA, but ease your way into shape. I always found that allowed me to do that. You also said how now that you're older. I remember when I was training and I was younger and I would healthily lose 3 pounds a week on average usually. And then I remember I went back to like compete in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, oh, let me shed some pounds. And I didn't go on the scale all week. I'm like, what the fuck? I ate so good. I only lost a pound. What's going on?
Yeah, I've had to figure out whole new tricks because when I was younger, it was just, don't eat crap and the weight comes off. It's not like that anymore. When you eat, how you eat, what you eat, and what you do before and after you eat. It's like there's so many details I didn't know about that I've had to learn over the years, and they've been really, really helpful.
Yeah, man. Well, I tell you, we're 3 days out from the weigh-in. You got color in your face. Your voice isn't cracking. Your demeanor looks great. So whatever you're doing seems like it's working.
Yeah, I definitely feel very good. So I'm excited for the fight.
Well, Beniel, we're not going to hold you up, man. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I just wanted to get a couple thoughts, and you always deliver, whether that has been inside the octagon, outside the octagon. You've always been a true gentleman, and I enjoy watching your body of work. Your fighting is fantastic. Best of luck this weekend. Kick ass. I'll be there rooting you on, my man.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
The UFC is a badass, so keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah, man. What a good dude he is, man. It's fight week, and man, when you talk to these guys on fight week, man, they don't want to do these interviews. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always sensitive to that, man. That they don't really feel like talking to people and shit like that. So like, I'm always like, I like to get a couple thoughts from them and let them be on their way. And they, you know what? They appreciate that too, because like when the fight's over, when it's like, yo, you want to come on the show? They like, yo, man, I remember you was cool when we did that interview before the fight. So I'll do one after.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for those of you watching, you notice we didn't ask too much about the game plan. We were fighters. Like you don't want to be bothered with any of that bullshit. Plus, like we got to respect the work that he put in. And that's kind of how I see that. Like you said, keep it light. Don't take advantage of the opportunity that we had with him. And I could see that's how most of our fight week interviews probably will go, right? I mean,
yeah, I like to keep them short, man. But we got some bangers this weekend, boy. But before we get into this weekend, did you watch the fights last weekend? The first fight of 2025, Amanda Hebach, Mackenzie Dern.
I did. I watched the main card. I caught the highlights of the undercard, but I watched the main card.
Yeah, it's a lot of good fights. I mean, I'm so spoiled to watching, good events that they just kind of go over my head. I mean, I appreciate them, but when I think about the context of what happened last week, I mean, there were like 7 knockouts and like storylines out the yin yang. And it was, when I think about it that way, it was a lot of good fights. Mackenzie Dern, Mackenzie's was just better. It looked as though Amanda Hebach might have reached her ceiling in terms of how good she can be. Yeah. And Mackenzie seems like she's gotten better and continues to get better.
You know what I think the story of what I was watching during during the fight last week was technique. I saw techniques that, the game within the game. First, okay, we'll stick with Mackenzie Dern for a minute. First, I got a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. And this is something that was brought to me from a friend of ours, Blake Bowman, on Twitter, X, and then I brought it on our channel. Whose armbar was better, Mackenzie Dern's or Ronda Rousey's? To you.
Whose armbar was better?
Yeah, who's got a better armbar?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Ronda was doing armbars when those females really didn't know how to defend them. So
yeah,
I mean, there's a good point to say that, for Mackenzie to armbar Amanda Hebach from the mount is probably more impressive than anybody Ronda's ever armbarred.
I look at her armbars, her armbar finishes, and yeah, I know what you mean, but especially in MMA. When I see snug jiu-jitsu technique, I really like it. And that armbar was snug. Her whole jiu-jitsu technique was tight. And I got to go with Mackenzie, where Ronda was just out athleticizing these people in MMA with these arm bars. It felt like yes, it was technical, it was good, but not like Mackenzie's. Like she used a lot of power with them. I really like Mackenzie's arm bars better.
Yeah, she's a better jiu-jitsu player in terms of over like all of jiu-jitsu. Like Ronda's a judo player, and they do arm bars and stuff, but not as sophisticated, I'd say, as jiu-jitsu in terms of its execution and precision.
Something else that I noticed with Mackenzie that, now that I think about it, the only other grappling-based fighter, by grappling-based I mean judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, that elevated their striking technique, that the only other, let me backtrack a little bit. I always get ahead of myself. So like her striking looks great. Like you could tell, like she's really put the work in. She's comfortable on her feet. She's effective on her feet, effective whether it's with striking or striking to get the fight to the ground. The only other fighter that comes to mind that I think of that was that effective with striking was the way Rashad Evans did back in the day. He had great boxing when, as we know, he's a wrestler. I think he broke the single season record for takedowns or something like that, Division I history. But she is fantastic on her feet. Like she's just such a well-rounded fighter. And it's really impressive to watch her go.
Yeah, she's gotten better. And I think that she attributes that to now treating fighting as if it's a profession. I think before it was more of she came from jiu-jitsu, like a logical progression coming from jiu-jitsu, and it was a way to make money, and it was the cool thing to do. And she didn't really know how to fight. And she'll tell you, it's like I spoke to her before, and she would tell you that she was just kind of fighting off of emotion, and she was just good at it. But now she's training properly. She's got a wonderful coach in Jason Perillo, who's really dialing in on her striking to get her to move her feet, move forward when she's punching so she can get closer to takedowns. And now that she's doing all those things, I mean, she looks like a real legit contender. So
absolutely.
Props to her for that. But did you catch the Kopylov and Chris Curtis fight? There was some controversy there. Me and Paul Felder argued on the post show about this. Got some news on that too.
Oh, I didn't watch the post show. Did see the fight. More importantly, the finish. I'll just say my opinion. I thought Chris got caught on the raw end of a bad stoppage. 1 second left. Ref should have a little bit more of an awareness of what's going on. It wasn't like he was flat out on his feet. It wasn't the knockout of Holloway Gaethje where Gaethje was out. I think that and I give the ref a little bit of a pass. We spoke about this before with Herzog when he had a bet. I think the ref he mismanaged the time, and I think that Chris got caught on the raw end of the deal there. Why? What do you think?
Well, I argued that I was okay with the stoppage, and I sided with Mark because it's not the ref's job to manage the clock as well. He's to stop the fight when the fighter is no longer intelligently defending himself.
Within 10 seconds? Within 10 seconds, he can't have an awareness?
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the time is 5 minutes, not 4 minutes and 50 seconds. 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Like within that 5 minute time limit, it's a buzzer beater, right? It's a buzzer beater.
Okay.
I had no problem. I had no problem with him stopping. I mean, he got a raw. It sucks to get the TKO in your record, and if he didn't stop it, I wouldn't have had a problem with it either way. But in terms of the logistics of the way fighting should be officiated, I have no problem with the stoppage, just because it's a 5 minute round. And within that 5 minutes, if a fighter is no longer intelligently defending himself, the ref can stop it. Now, if Kopylov attacked him during that and he stopped it, it might have looked different. But Kopylov did the walk off like, yeah, I won. And I think that's what influenced the stoppage, is because Mark Smith might have thought that, okay, it's over. Kopylov's doing the walk off, it's over. And I think that might have influenced it a little bit. But at the end of the day, like, it's not and I said this on the post show, it's not the ref's job to manage the clock either. It's his job to stop fights when a fighter is no longer intelligently defending himself. And that's a wrap. He got a raw deal, and they were pissed. Chris Curtis was pissed not only because of that, but they have history with Mark Smith of Mark Smith kind of having a bias towards him, allegedly.
Yeah. See, I'm the kind of person where, like, if I'm watching a football game and it's been an aggressive game all day and it's tight in the fourth quarter and they call some iffy pass interference, I'm the kind of guy, let the boys play. Don't throw the flag.
Yeah, but that's again, same thing with Paul Felder. You guys are speaking from the shoes of the athlete. And I'm not necessarily speaking from the shoes of Mark Smith, but just I'm trying to be as biased as possible. Like I get both sides of it. I'm just trying to be as biased as possible. Mm-hmm. But Paul Felder was like, no, how dare he step in and stop it? But 1 second left, let the man go out. And I'm like, yo, come on. And I get that, right? Like you want to go out that way. Like you don't want the fight to be stopped. But and I'm with you on that. Like let the boys play. But I think Mark he probably made a hasty decision that he tried to justify afterwards, because if not, like he looked a little nervous about stepping in early. So he might have realized it was a bit hasty, but I'm going to step in for him and justify it and go, hey, just only because no one ever sticks up for the refs.
Well, I don't want to attack him in fact, I was very careful when I posted on X when I was watching the fights about what I said, because first of all, let me be hypocritical for a second here. I think that fighters would inherently, or they would be like, a lot of people think you should fight before you ref or judge. I think that fighters would be at a disadvantage being a good ref or a good judge, because they want to see what they want to see. If you get all fighters with the fighting heart judging and reffing fights, they're going to let those blood and guts happen, where we forget that they're in there to keep us safe, and somebody has to do it. So I wouldn't have went the other way with it. I don't think he deserves to be ridiculed too harshly. I mean, I don't know what the UFC overall felt about it.
It's amazing they didn't really come down on him for that. Not too much. Not too bad anyway.
Yeah, they probably they respected it. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. I mean, it happens. People respect bad decisions sometimes in mixed martial arts, but yeah. I would have went the other way. I would have went the other way.
Well, let's get into this weekend. Let's go the other way to this weekend. So that was last weekend. The other way is this weekend. We got UFC 311 in LA. Hopefully everything goes according to plan. We know about the catastrophic occurrences that are going on right now in LA. My heart goes out to everybody affected by that. But the UFC says, okay, we're going to create a distraction for the weekend and get everybody's mind off of that, and let's watch the fight. So I'm here for that. Main event, we got Islam Makhachev taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Thoughts on that fight?
I like Islam. I think that Tsarukyan, the dude just shows so many tools. He's constantly growing. I just think that right now Islam's just a little bit ahead of him. I think that he can control the fight, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. I think we're going to see him control the fight, whether it be striking or wrestling for that matter. I think it would be more wrestling from Islam, but I just think that Islam is the big dog right now, and I think that it's his time. He's in his prime to keep winning.
Well, it's crazy that you say that, and I like the term controlling a fight, as if that is a separate skill, because it is very much a separate skill in a fight, just like being able to throw a good punch is a skill. Having the awareness and the ability to control a fight is a skill, and I think that's something that Islam does, if not better, just as good as anybody else in the UFC. His ability to dictate the placement of the fight, not only just whether it's on the feet or on the ground, but just like where it is. Like you could tell he's like leading guys in certain directions and steering guys in certain directions. Islam is very good at that. Very good at recovering from mistakes, which he rarely makes. So yeah, I'm with you on this. I think that Islam is just kind of one step better than Arman everywhere, perhaps, like except for maybe kicking. And when he's aware of his deficiencies, he's good about not allowing them to be a factor of the fight. So I think Arman wins this fight. He's a heavy favorite. He's like a minus 400 favorite. I don't know if he should be that much, but
I'm looking it up right now. He's 380 right now. He's 380 right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that evens out a little bit, just because people will say, "Man, Arman's being disrespected. Let me put a little bit on Arman." But I think that's a bit heavy.
I'm predicting it now. You're going to see some boos from the fans, because I could totally see situations where Sarukian's starting to get the better of him with some striking, and then Islam covers, shoots down, takes him down, controls the round, wins the round.
Yeah, that's a possibility. How about a fight that won't have any boos is probably Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Merab for the title. There's no way Merab's ever getting booed in a fight.
Never.
Merab is a 2-1 underdog in this fight, which surprises me from a tactical and technical standpoint, but doesn't surprise me based on reputation and general consensus of what we think about the Nurmagomedov family. I think he gets a few points just being a Nurmagomedov and training in Dagestan.
Yep.
But I don't think for me, I'm just going to go out and say it. I think Merab wins.
I got Merab. I just think that, and it's so funny when he was on here and he was talking, he was so open to saying how much Nurmagomedov does not deserve this fight. And I'm not the first person he said that to, obviously. He's like, there's so many other better fighters out there. And I didn't take it as I'm sleeping on this guy. I take it as I'm going to beat this guy really bad. And, he's just where he's at now, training in Vegas, he's developing more. Obviously the wrestling is always there. His cardio is always there. He's got one of the best gas tanks I've ever seen. The striking is there. The cage poise, he's where the Nurmagomedovs, you see them a lot of that all those Dagestani fighters. They have explosive north-south, explosive north-south. Merab has that, and he can create angles, whether it's for takedowns or strikes. And I think that's where you're going to see him winning this fight, where those takedowns are going to be singles to doubles, cage, whatever. I think that he's just going to be one step ahead of him.
Oh, one step. For sure. I mean, I think it might be moments where, it's going to be a lot of good back and forth moments and competitive moments, but I think that as that fight plays out more and more and more, the fact that Merab won't go nowhere, he'll never be discouraged of getting in Umar's face, and I think that's going to actually break Umar. I think he breaks him. I think Umar's so used to,
being the hammer.
Yeah, being the hammer, but just that family being so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure, man. Like to be a part of a dynasty like that, and then when you're not living up to it, that can have a major effect on you psychologically. I think that happens. I think we see that in real time in this fight.
Yeah, it's like I remember when I was a freshman in high school and I was wrestling varsity, and the first finals I made, and I was in there with my other teammates who were always in the finals, and I was so pumped to line up. And then when I was under the lights, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. I lost. But
you're like, I'm the idiot that lost.
yeah. One fight that I can't decide what's going to happen, and I usually pride myself in being able to pick apart some part of technique we see, is Yuri and Jamal.
I knew you was going to say that. I spoke to Yuri yesterday. He's very confident. He's confident that he's going to win this fight. He's confident that not only win this fight, but fight Alex and beat Alex afterwards.
Dude, like, it's so funny with fighters like that. I feel like, and Jamal has this, I feel like a good jab will beat them. A good jab will just, but he doesn't really fall victim of a jab in his fights, because Glover has a pretty good jab.
Yeah, but he doesn't block punches well.
No, he doesn't. He's just so, I don't know, like the way I just feel like his striking is he's going to catch some damage for sure, but I don't see him getting completely outstruck in this fight. I'm not talking about being outboxed. I can't put my finger on it. I like I said, I can't. I mean, if he dominates or Jamal dominates, I'm like, oh shit. I can't put my finger on what's going to happen with this fight.
I think Jamal kind of pieces him up.
Yeah.
I think Jamal might knock him out. I think he pieces him up, man. Jamal is just so instinctively accurate and good at punching people. Like that's his skill. He's really good at hitting his targets. And when you got a guy who's really good at hitting targets, fighting a guy who's not good at blocking, I mean, it's just it's just the perfect storm for a knockout. It really is, but and Jamal's got a really good chin himself too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jamal eat a couple and then just deliver right back and end up knocking Yuri out.
Do you think that he'll try to try to not eat the first round, but try to gauge his timing, gauge his target, stuff like that? But Yuri's just so spastic. Do you think that's how it goes?
No, I think Yuri's so spastic that Jamal's going to have to meet him with that level of intensity early, because Yuri will probably come out really spastic.
Well, I tell you what, this is what I used to do to try to slow people down. Just control the center of the cage. That usually they have to stand. If you're controlling the center of the cage, they're going to have to stand at some point.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like he's got to come into him, and I think that's where Jamal excels. Like he's really good at swinging and hitting. Like he's a really good base hitter.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do worry for Jamal, like if catching like body kicks, body knees, but it's going to take a lot to get in there. He's going to Yuri would have to take one or two to get in there. To your point, and those are one or two tough punches to take.
Well, it's interesting. I spoke to Yuri on my Serious show, and he said the same thing, almost like what Beniel said, and that was improvement, working on getting better, and I'm always questioning these guys that say I'm working on getting better, and you can't ask them on a public forum like this.
Yeah,
but I always question them, like, what do you like in private? Like, what are you getting better at? And like, tell me what you've recognized your weaknesses are, and identify what those were, and tell me what you did to get better. And I feel like most people can't answer it.
I like to lead with that, with what I would do to get better there. Like I remember I was talking with somebody once, and actually a couple of years ago, I did an interview on my channel with Kayla Harrison, and I was talking about her, like, the judo, and I said, I know what I used to do with striking is I used to play games with myself, and that's true. Like I found one trick that
pocket pull
when I was striking was when my feet stopped moving, my head started moving, and vice versa, and that kind of fixed my stance a little bit. She goes, yeah, okay. And I try to lead with what I would do and see, but I don't press either. Like, because like you said, it's tough. You don't want to get away with it.
They're never going to, but that's the thing though, is they're not, I mean, they won't answer here, but like in a private setting, when you ask people, what are you doing to get better? They still say, oh, I'm working really hard.
Yeah.
But that's, you could like, are you saying you weren't working hard before? Are you like, what does that mean? Like working really hard? Explain to me how you can measure your improvements because you're saying you're working hard.
Yeah. And you don't want to point out, well, you get knocked out from left hooks a lot.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like how you got to, so I would be more, I would be more convinced about most guys when they tell me they're getting better if they were a little bit more honest with some of the things that they were talking about getting better at. They wouldn't even have to tell me what they were doing, but they would say, yeah, you know what? My defense was a little suspect. Those are some things I've been working on. But when they're just blatantly like, I'm training to get better, to improve, I'm always like, really? I don't believe you. I think that you're training harder, and your desire might be even more intense. Like you might want to be better, but does that really mean that you're going to be better? Never confuse your desire with your ability or your discipline. And most guys have the desire to get better, but that doesn't mean that they're getting better.
Some guys don't even know. Like they think like, I'm working harder, but are you working harder doing the same shit you were doing before? Like it's like, well, me, like my boxing sucked, so I started going to the Bronx and was boxing in Morris Park, getting my ass kicked by these Dominican kids. So I was like,
you was boxing in the Bronx?
oh yeah.
Actually,
where what's his name was? We had him on here. I was.
Ramez,
dude.
Yeah,
I left so discouraged so many times going down there, man. Just these, and like I was fighting professionally. I had like 10 pro fights, and these kids that are boxing the Golden Gloves down there just working me, man.
They saw you coming and was like, hell yeah, give me white boy.
Yep. I left many times crying. I should have never came to this neighborhood.
They was like, yo, give me the white boy with the pretty hair.
Dude, I did. I had a blowout back in the day too. So I showed up with my blowout.
Oh man, that's
I
great.
got a great story. I used to box with Dia Davis's cousin, Aaron Davis. And I remember he was coming off shoulder surgery, and I had a big fight coming up. He's like, I want to make sure you're doing some things, so we're just gonna move for 3 rounds. I'm like, all right, and put the headgear on. He's like, no, just do it. It's fine. Dude, I tell you, and I like wrestlers. Eventually, they slow down. Grab. But I feel like boxing coaches, like they don't lose it if they don't want. Like they just don't lose it. Like he in those 3 rounds, he hit me with, or he threw 5 power punches, like serious power punches. Landed all 5, and I'm not even talking like they didn't knock me out. Like the best way I could put it was they were still offensive. Like I was still like, whoa, what the fuck? He got me, and I was like, that's when I knew I was in the right place.
Any other fight you looking forward to this weekend?
Sorry. Oh, any other fight I'm looking forward to this weekend? Oh, I like Peyton Talbot. I like what I'm seeing there. Hany Bocelos, years ago, he was where Peyton Talbot was. He was on the rise, but he got hurt and just things didn't work out for him. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Peyton Talbot has.
I know. I almost forget how bad he beat up Cameron Simon. Mm-hmm. His other performances have been so quick that it's hard to determine how good he really is. But then when you go back and watch how bad he beat up Cameron Simon, you go, oh yeah, he's pretty damn good.
Yeah. He's just explosive. He has cage awareness. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good, fun fight to watch. I'm also a bit interested in this watching Kevin Holland fight Rainer de Ridder, because I'm not sold on Rainer de Ridder at all. I think that he caught a really good opponent stylistically for his first fight in the UFC, and I thought he didn't look very good at all. And I think that Kevin Holland, you couldn't find a more opposite middleweight than Gerald Meerschaert and Kevin Holland. I mean, he's the most so this will be a good, interesting fight because we saw how Rainer held down on Gerald Meerschaert, but can he do that to Kevin Holland, a guy who's super fast, super quick, punches really hard? So that'll be an interesting fight.
I tell you, man, I love watching Kevin Holland. I can't gauge what that dude's ceiling is because he always looks good. Like I know when he fought Khamzat Chimaev, obviously there was some bullshit before the fight, whatever, and like he took it like short notice. But I was like, man, he was really discouraged. I heard after the fight, and he wasn't taking things seriously or whatever. But then he shows up. He looked great against Stephen Thompson, despite what the age of Stephen Thompson. He looked really good against MVP. I just like. Where do you think his ceiling is? Like, is he in his prime, or is he still? What do you think? Because he's freaking good, and he just.
I think he is what he is, man. I think he's. I don't think he cares about fighting all that much. I think he just likes to make money, and this is the easiest way in his life that he can make a bunch of money and be kind of famous. He's got a lot of fans. He's got a platform to talk. He's got opportunities to make money and get sponsorships. And I think he trains so that he can maintain that stuff. But I don't think he really cares about putting in the work and discipline to be a world champion. But that doesn't make him less dangerous, though.
That's not so bad either. Like,
it's not bad at all.
How many people in the real world have jobs that they just have to make money, and they end up being pretty damn good at it. Maybe the pressure's off of him, and that's what allows him to grow.
Hell yeah. Like, honestly, I wish more fighters would do this. Like, once you get to a certain point, like Eric Anders even was like, yeah, man, I'm just having fun fights. Like, once you get to a certain point when you realize you're not going to be champion. You have to be honest with yourself. Not only are you not going to have the opportunities to be champion, but you might not even be good enough to be champion. You might not even be good enough to fight guys in the top 10, but that doesn't make you less of a more entertaining fighter. And I think Kevin Holland has come to terms with himself that I'm good enough to be in the top 10, but I'm probably not good enough to be champion. I don't want to work hard like that to be champion. I want to live my life, smoke weed, make rap songs, and fight fun fights and make a shit ton of money doing it. And he's going to be better as a fighter for doing that, and he's going to be more entertaining to us for doing that.
You know what, though? Like, what happens if he loses 2 in a row and he's like, fuck, man, winning was a lot better than losing. And he just gets that boot in the ass and he's turns into a world beater, you know?
And I think he's got the capability to do that too. Yeah. I think that if he's losing too many, I think he has the ability to buckle down and because he's done that before. He went on a string of losses and then he buckled down a little bit, went quiet for a little bit and got serious and then started winning again and then realized that, hey, man, I know I can still win fights, but I need to have fun in my life too. And then now he's back to where he's kind of having a little bit of fun. Either way, he's good enough to win fights, but I don't think he has the discipline to be a world champion. So he's finding that balance of how much effort I have to put in to be a prize fighter and make the most money without sacrificing the love that I have for my lifestyle. And that's okay.
That's awesome. I think he's great for the sport.
Yeah, he's great. He's great for the sport. And he's great fun, good fun to watch, man. I think I'm predicting him to beat on Rainer de Ritter pretty badly.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm predicting that.
Mm-hmm. It's a good parlay weekend.
Yeah. So like if you want to put some parlays in, I would say that one. Probably Peyton Talbot and Islam. I'm not 100. I don't want Marab to bust your parlay, but
I would put it on Marab. I like Marab.
I mean, I like Marab too. I think Marab's going to win, but I like Islam's chances of winning more than I like Marab's chances of winning.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, but Ryan, we will see what happens, and we will do this again next week. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Comment, let your friends know. Shout out to Beniel Dariush for joining the show today. And on that note, this court is adjourned.
Boom.